Mermail Abyssballone is a water attribute archetype level 7 with 2500 attack and 2000 defense. You can discard 4 other water mermail monsters to the graveyard, special summon this card from your hand. When you do, target cards your opponent controls up to the number of mermail monsters in your graveyard, if possible. This card gains 500 attack, and if it does, destroy those targets, if any. You can tribute one other face-up attack position mermail monster. This card gains the following effect this turn. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles a defense position monster, destroy that monster. The summoning on this card is quite difficult as it requires the discard of 4 other mermail monsters to the graveyard. So you are losing 4 cards instead of, if this card had been normal summoned, it would have only required 2 costs. As soon as this card is special summoned, you can target cards your opponent controls up to the number of monsters in your graveyard. So that's depending on how many you've actually discarded will help you to get to a higher figure. This card gains 500 attack points, so it becomes a 3000 attack monster. And when you do this, destroy those targets, so you can choose a number of cards equivalent to that. That's a good way of wiping out your opponent's advantage if they have that on the board. By attributing a face-up attack position mermail monster other than itself, this also has the ability to just get rid of a defense position monster without it being able to trigger off its effect. It's an instant destruction effect. Mermail Abyssballone is a water attribute sea serpent type Xyz effect monster. It's a rank 3 with 1600 and 2800 defense. It requires 3 level 3 monsters. During either player's turn, when your opponent targets exactly one face-up mermail monster you control for an attack, or with a spell trap effect that could have targeted this card, except during a damage step, you can detach one Xyz material from this card. That attack or effect now targets this card. When this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target one mermail monster in your graveyard, except Mermail Abyssballone, special summon that target. This card requires 3 level 3 monsters to bring it out, so it can be a little bit tricky. But as soon as during either player's turn, an opponent targets a face mermail monster, whether that be for an attack or with a spell or trap effect, you're able to detach a material and then redirect that effect on to this monster. That will preserve some of your higher monsters that don't have any protection effects. If this card happens to be destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can just choose a mermail monster outside of itself and then special summon it so it has an ability to replace itself. Mermail Abyssballone is a archetype water attribute level 7 with 2800 attack and 1600 defense. It requires 2 level 7 water monsters. While this face-up card has Xyz material, level 5 or higher monsters cannot attack. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach one Xyz material from this card, negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls that have less attack than this card, until the end of the turn. The summoning on this isn't too bad as it just requires 2 level 7 water monsters. There are plenty of mermails that meet this condition. Provided this card has Xyz material, it punishes monsters that are level 5 or higher. That also includes your own, so there is that disadvantage. And during either player's turn, just by detaching a material from this card, you're able to shut down all face-up monster effects your opponent currently controls, provided they have less attack than this. So this starts up as 2800, and note that it doesn't say original attack. So if you're able to boost this card up, you're able to apply this effect to a wider range of monsters. Mermail Abyssballone is a water attribute sea serpent type link effect monster. Its link arrows are the bottom left and the bottom right. It has 1600 attack points and it's a link 2. It requires 2 fish, sea serpent and or app monsters to bring it out. And monsters this card points to gain 500 attack effects. You can only use each of the following effects of Mermail Abyssballone once per turn. During your opponent's turn, as a quick effect, you can send one card from your hand to the graveyard, add one mermail monster from your deck to your hand. Or if this card is in its owner's possession is destroyed by this card, you can send one water monster from your deck to the graveyard. Then target one water monster in your graveyard, special summon it in a defense position. The summoning on this isn't too bad as pretty much the decks that you're going to run this card in will meet this condition. Monsters this card points to gain 500 additional attack defense, which adds to the consistency and the strength of the deck. Mermail archetype. Each turn you can choose one of the effects. During the opponent's turn, you are able to send a card from your hand to the graveyard to just search for a monster from your deck to your hand, so that's a road for the deck. Or if this card is destroyed by an opponent's card, so that can be either by battle or by card effect, by taking a water monster from your deck, you can send that to the graveyard, and from then you can target a water monster in your graveyard and special summon it in defense position. Note that the second part of the effect actually works with the first bit of that section as well, because the monster that's been sent from the deck to the graveyard can also be revived. So it's an easy way of getting what you need from the deck without running additional support. Abyss Scale of the Kraken is a equip spell card. Each time equip only to a Mermail monster, it gains 400 attack. When a monster effect that was activated on your opponent's side of the field resolves, negate that effect, then send this card to the graveyard. This provides your Mermail monsters with an additional 400 attack points and instantly negates an effect that your opponent uses, but it does come at the cost of sending itself to the graveyard. But since this is an instant response type of effect, it can't really be negated. Abyss Scale of Cetus is an equip spell card. Equip only to a Mermail monster. It gains 800 attack. When a trap effect that was activated on your opponent's side of the field resolves, negate that effect, then send this card to the graveyard. Similar to the previous one, this one applies to trap cards rather than monster cards. It also provides a bigger boost to your Mermail monsters by giving it 800 attack rather than 400. As soon as a trap card is activated, you are able to just send this to the graveyard and negate that effect. If that card happens to be a continuous trap card or one that remains on the field, it only negates the activation, and so it can be activated during your opponent's turn. Abyss Scale of the Mizuchi is an equip spell card. Its effect is equip only to a Mermail monster. It gains 800 attack. When a spell effect that was activated on your opponent's side of the field resolves, negate that effect, then send this card to the graveyard. This is able to boost your monsters by an additional 800 attack points and provides the spell effect negation abilities. It's only a negate effect, so if that spell card, for whatever reason, be it an equip spell or a continuous spell or one that just has the ability to remain on the field, is activated, it's only the effect that gets negated rather than it being sent to the graveyard or destroyed. Abyss Squall is a normal trap card. Target 3 Mermail monsters in your graveyard. Special summon those targets in a face-up defense position. Their effects are negated and they cannot declare an attack. Destroy them during the end phase. The design on this card is it helps you to bring out some of your Xyz monsters or to go into your Link monsters. It's not designed to revive them indefinitely, as they are destroyed during the end phase, and their abilities are unable to activate as well as them being unable to attack. They're just there for really either tribute fodder or for Xyz or Link summon. Abyss Spear is a continuous trap card. Special summon one Mermail monster from your deck. Its effects are negated. You cannot activate any spell cards. When this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. Destroy this card during your opponent's next end phase after activation. As soon as this card is activated, you get to bring out a Mermail monster from your deck. It does have its effects negated, and it limits you from using any spell cards for the duration of that turn. As soon as this card leaves the field, that monster gets destroyed, so it's very similar to something like Call of the Haunted or Premiership Burial, where they attach it almost like an equip spell. But it also gets this card destroyed during the opponent's next end phase, so if you happen to use this at the wrong time, then it will get to a much quicker destruction based on the effect. For example, if you activated this during your opponent's main phase 2, there's no point, as it will go to the end phase and this card will trigger its destruction effect. Abyss Scorn is a normal trap card. The effect is to target one Mermail monster you control. It gains 1000 attack until the end phase. When this set card is sent to the graveyard, target one monster your opponent controls, send that target to the graveyard. This provides your Mermail monsters with an attack boost. It lasts only until the end phase, but since it's a trap card, it can technically be used during your turn, and therefore if one of your Mermail monsters happens to be threatened by an attack, this could be a surprise on your opponent and be enough to prevent not only your monster from being destroyed in battle, but being able to destroy your opponent in battle. They will attack into the monster that you have. If this card happens to be destroyed when it's set, and this can also be sent to the graveyard, you can just choose a monster your opponent controls, and that gets sent to the graveyard. This means it often prevents them from using any of their floating effects or any additional abilities. Sheehan Squire is a Earth Attribute Warrior type tuner level 1 with 300 attack and 700 effects. During damage calculation in either player's turn, if a 6 samurai monster you control battles, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. That monster cannot be destroyed by battle this turn. This is a hand trap for the 6 Samurai archetype. However, its effect is very much just protecting your own 6 Samurai monster from being destroyed in battle that turn. It doesn't prevent you from taking any battle damage, therefore If your opponent has multiple monsters and that happens to be the only monster that you have on the field when this effect triggers, they'll still attack into your monster. You'll still take damage, you'll just take less than if that monster had been destroyed in battle and then your opponent had gone into direct attacks. It's also a level 1 tuner and can be used to help synchro summon into the synchro monster that is able to negate a spell or trap effect once per turn and destroy it. Kagemusha of the Six Samurai is an Earth Attribute Warrior type tuner effect monster. It's a level 2 with 400 attack and 1800 defense. During either player's turn, when exactly one face-up Six Samurai monster you control is targeted by a spell card, trap card, or a card effect that could have targeted this card, you can activate this effect. That spell or trap effect now targets this face-up card on the field instead. This is able to substitute the destruction, really, of any of your Six Samurai monsters by sending those effects onto this card. But this has to be on the field to activate that effect, whereas the Xian Squire could be activated from the hand. It's decent, but your opponent is just really going to attack over this first before getting over any of your other threats. It's also a level 2 tuner, which helps you to bring out the higher level synchro monsters that the deck contains. Elder of the Six Samurai is an Earth Attribute Warrior type level 3 with 400 attack and 0 defense. If your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. This is a free summon of a monster, even though it doesn't have much in terms of stats. But if you combine this with Kagemusha, then you can bring out the level 5 synchro monster within the same turn. You don't have to use anything such as double summon to bring out 2 monsters within that turn. Legendary Six Samurai Kageki is a Wind Attribute Warrior type level 3 with 200 attack and 2000 defense. When this card is normal summoned, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Six Samurai monster from your hand. While you control a Six Samurai monster with a different name, this card gains 1500 attack. As soon as this card is normal summoned, you can just bring out any level 4 or lower Six Samurai monster. It doesn't matter which one, so long as it meets that condition. And while you control a Six Samurai monster, provided it has a different name, this card gains an extra 1500 attack, making a 1700 attack monster. That's decent, as a lot of the Six Samurai monsters tend to be around that baseline, and provided you have at least another option, gives you a little bit more damage on board. Legendary Six Samurai Shinai is a Water Attribute Warrior type level 3 with 1500 attack and defense. If you control a Legendary Six Samurai Mizuho, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card on the field is tributed, target one Six Samurai monster in your graveyard except Legendary Six Samurai Shinai, add it to your hand. You need to have a very specific Legendary Six Samurai on the field in order for you to special summon this card, and therefore it's not reliable to depend on this effect. Provided this card on the field has been tributed, so it can be used to bring out any of your other higher level Six Samurai monsters, or for a cost of some sort of effect, you can target a Six Samurai monster that's in the graveyard and it gets instantly brought back to your hand for reuse. Legendary Six Samurai Mizuho is a Fire Attribute Warrior type level 3 with 1600 attack and 1000 defense. If you control Legendary Six Samurai Shinai, you can special summon this card from your hand. Once per turn, you contribute another face-up Six Samurai monster, then target one card on the field, destroy that target. The previous one that we looked at was the Shinai, and so these two seem to pair well together, as one helps special summon the other, provided the other one's present on the field. Each turn, by attributing another face-up Six Samurai monster, you're able to just target any card on the field, be it yours or your opponent's, and it gets destroyed. So that can also be either a monster, a spell, or a trap. The effect is not fussy. It's good as it's a way of disrupting and beating down your opponent, or to help you activate your own effects which trigger off of being destroyed by any means. Legendary Six Samurai Kizan is a Attribute Warrior type level 4 with 1800 attack and 500 defense. If you control a Six Samurai monster with a different name, you can special summon this card from your hand. While you control 2 or more other Six Samurai monsters, this card gains 300 attack and defense. Provided you have a different Six Samurai monster than this card, this is able to be special summoned. And so long as you have 2 or more other Six Samurai monsters, this gains an additional 300 attack and defense, making a 2100 attack monster. This helps to onboard further damage, but it's not really there for any other purposes. Legendary Six Samurai Enishi is a Light Attribute Warrior type level 4 with 1700 attack and 700 defense. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can banish 2 6 samurai monsters from your graveyard to target one face-up monster on the field. Return that target to the hand. You must control a face-up 6 samurai monster with a different name to activate and resolve this effect. While you control 2 or more face-up 6 samurai monsters except legendary 6 samurai Anishi, this card gains 500 attack and defense. Each turn, and it can be during yours or your opponent's turn, just by banishing 2 6 samurai monsters from your graveyard, you can choose to target a face-up monster on the field, and that gets returned to the target's hand, so it can be yours or your opponent's. You need to have a face-up 6 samurai monster that happens to have a different name from this card to use that ability, and it is a way of disrupting your opponent, as the effect, if you've got 6 samurais in the graveyard, can help to activate each and every round. Provided you have 2 or more face-up 6 samurai monsters outside of this one, this also gains an additional 500 attack and defense, making a 2200 attack monster. Grandmaster of the 6 Samurai is a complete monster. It's level 5 with 2100 attack and 800 defense. You can only control one Grandmaster of the 6 Samurai. If you control a 6 Samurai monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, target one 6 Samurai monster in your graveyard, add that target to your hand. Provided you have a different 6 samurai monster, you are able to just bring this card out. And it's okay for a 2100 attack monster, it just helps to add to your field presence. When this card is destroyed, and it has to be specifically by an opponent's card effect, you can choose a 6 samurai monster in the graveyard, and that gets recovered back to your hand. It's a good recovery card for the deck, and it also just allows you to build up your field. Legendary 6 samurai Shien is a dark attribute warrior type synchro effect monster. It's level 5 with 2500 attack and 1400 defense. It requires a warrior tuner and 1 or more non-tuner 6 samurai monsters. And once per turn, when your opponent activates a spell or trap card, as a quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. If this card on the field would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can destroy another 6 samurai monster you control instead. The summoning on this card isn't particularly that too bad, as it just needs a warrior tuner and 1 or more non-tuner 6 samurai monsters, so it is an in-archetype based card. Each turn, provided your opponent activates a spell or trap card, so this is fine, you're able to just straight away negate it and destroy it. And if this card on the field would be threatened by destruction either through battle or card effect, you can just choose to destroy another 6 samurai monster, so it substitutes its own destruction. 6 Samurai United is a continuous spell card. The effect is each time a 6 samurai monster is normal or special summoned, place 1 Bushido counter on this card, maximum 2. You can send this card to the graveyard and draw 1 card for each Bushido counter on this card. This is fine as an effect, as it enables you to draw up to 2 additional cards, provided that you summon a 6 samurai monster. And these counters can be activated more than once in attack. It's a decent draw card, and it's very consistent for what the deck needs. The 6 samurais are able to special summon multiple of those monsters very easily. Gateway of the 6 is a continuous spell. Each time a 6 samurai monster is normal or special summoned, place 2 Bushido counters on this card. You can remove Bushido counters from your field to activate these effects. 2 counters target 1 6 samurai or Shien effect monster. That target gains 500 attack until the end of this turn. 4 counters, add 1 6 samurai monster from your deck to your or graveyard to your hand. Or 6 counters, target 1 Shien effect monster on your graveyard, special summon that target. Each time a 6 samurai monster happens to be normal or special summoned, you get to instantly just put 2 Bushido counters, and based on the number of counters that you remove from this card will determine the effects. In 2 counters, you can target a 6 samurai or Shien effect monster, and it gains an additional 500 attack points. It's a good way of doing more damage to the opponent. If you remove 4 counters, you can just search for a 6 samurai monster from your deck, or recover it from your graveyard back to your hand. And if you choose to remove the 6 counters, you can target a Shien effect monster that's in your graveyard and special summon that target. The Shien monsters tend to be more powerful than the original 6 samurais, and so that's why it requires the most number of counters in order to remove to trigger off that ability. Shien's Smoke Signal is a normal spell card. Add 1 level 3 or lower 6 samurai monster from your deck to your hand. This adds consistency to your search and allows you to go into one of the weaker 6 samurai monsters without having to run additional support cards that are outside of its own archetype. Typically, you will add the Kagamusha through this card's ability. 6 Strike Triple Impact is a normal spell card. The effect is if you control 3 or more face-up 6 samurai monsters, you can activate one of these effects. effects. Destroy all face-up monsters your opponent controls, destroy all face-up spell or trap cards your opponent controls, or destroy all set spell and trap cards your controls. You do need to have 3 or more 6 samurais already on your field to be able to use this effect, and so you could be quite a dead draw if you don't have those resources to bring those cards out. And depending on what effect you need is the one you can rely upon. If you destroy all face-up monsters your opponent controls, bear in mind that some of those have floating effects and therefore they can just bring out other cards. There are also monsters that are immune to any type of card destruction abilities. Second part of the effect just destroys all face-up spell and trap cards your opponent controls. That's fine, as that's typically able to get rid of quite a few of them, even things such as field spells, and the final ability gets to destroy all set spell and trap cards the opponent has. The concern about the final part of the effect is that this does not negate the ability for them to activate, so they can activate their spell or trap cards in response to this card trying to destroy them, meaning you might not get as much benefit as if you'd been able to stop them activating anything. Asceticism of the Sixth Samurai. It's a quick play spell card with the ability to target one Sixth Samurai monster you control, special summon one Sixth Samurai monster from your deck with the same attack by a different name, and if you do, destroy it during the end phase of this turn. By just choosing a Sixth Samurai monster, you can special summon a different Sixth Samurai monster. It has to have the same attack, so there is a similar condition, and it can only last until the end of the turn, but there aren't any negation-based effects, so it can still attack. It can still use its own abilities. Shien's Dojo is a continuous spell card. Each time a Sixth Samurai monster is normal or special summoned, place 1 Bushido counter on this card. You can send this card to the graveyard and special summon 1 Sixth Samurai or Shien effect monster from your main deck whose level is less than or equal to the number of Bushido counters on this card. Provided you are normal on special summoning Sixth Samurai monsters, you're able to just generate Bushido counters on this card. By sending this card to the graveyard, you're just able to special any Sixth Samurai or Shien effect monsters equivalent in level or less than the number of Bushido counters on this card. So the more you can generate, the more versatile the strategy you have to bring out higher level monsters. Musakani Magatama is a counter trap card. When your opponent activates a spell or trap card or monster effect that destroys a card while you control a Sixth Samurai monster, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. This is the Sixth Samurai counter trap card, similar to something like Solemn Judgment, as it applies to pretty much everything that your opponent is trying to do. So long as you've got a Sixth Samurai monster present on your field and this card it has been face down on the field, you can just activate it in response to anything. So that could be a spell, a trap, or a monster effect, provided that it threatens to destroy a card. And it doesn't have to be a card that you control. It could be them trying to respond and destroy one of their cards to trigger off an additional effect. Six Strike Thunderblast is a normal trap card. The effect is remove 1 Bushido counter from your side of the field to activate these effects. Either target 1 monster your opponent controls, destroy that target, or target 1 card your opponent controls, return that target to the hand. Depending on what your opponent has will determine which of these effects you're going to use. If your opponent has a card that happens to not be needing to be destroyed, maybe to trigger off its effect, then it's fine to just use the first part of the effect. Second ability can be used both on monsters and on spell and trap cards, so that depends on what your opponent's running. If it is a high investment resourced protected monster and it cannot be destroyed by battle or by effect, but can be susceptible to being returned to the hand, then you are better off opting for the secondary ability. 6-star Dual Wield is a normal trap card. The effect is if the only monster you control is 1 Sixth Samurai monster in phase attack position, target 2 cards your opponent controls, return those targets to the hand. So long as you have a Sixth Samurai monster that is in a phase attack position, you're just able to just take 2 of your opponent's cards and those get returned. So it can be monsters, spell or trap cards, whichever you determine. It's decent as it can pretty much be activated as and when you need it, rather than having to meet multiple types of effects and conditions. Flu Wanderers and Snell is a water attribute winged beast level 10 with 2,900 attack and 800 defense. Once per turn, if you control of this tribute summon card, you can conduct up to 3 normal summons or sets this turn, not just 1. While this tribute summoned card is in the main monster zone, if your monster attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. Once per opponent's turn, as a quick effect, you can banish this 1 card from your hand, change all special summon monsters your opponent controls to face down defense position. This is one of the 2 Floundries boss monsters. The other one happens to half the attack points of your opponent's monsters. This one has the ability, as soon as it's tribute summoned to let you normal summon up to 3 times in that turn. And when this tribute card is in the monster zone, it provides your monsters the ability to do piercing battle damage. Once per opponent's turn, and this is a quick effect and it has to be forced during your opponent's turn, just by banishing a card from your hand, which will be another one of the Flandres as they can recover themselves from being banished, you're able to change all special monsters the opponent has into face down defense position. This is like a Book of Moon style effect. It will disrupt your opponent from going into any of their extra deck monsters and will typically lock them out for the rest of that turn, as you time as and when you want to use this effect. Fluwandries and Ravina is a water attribute winged beast level 1 with 600 attack and 1200 defense. If this place-up card would leave the field, banish it instead. You can only use each of the following effects of Fluwandries and Ravina once per turn, and cannot special summon during the turn you activate either effect. If this card is normal summoned, you can add 1 level 4 on the winged beast monster from your deck to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon 1 winged beast monster. If a winged beast monster is normal summoned to your field, while this card is banished, you can add this card to your hand. As soon as this card gets removed from the field, it gets banished, which is fine. And once per turn, when this card is normal summoned, you can just search for a level 4 or lower winged beast monster from the deck to your hand. It doesn't matter which one you have, and then it gets to be normal summoned. This helps you to create card advantage without having to run additional summoning based cards. Fluwandries and Eaglin is a winged attribute winged beast level 1 with 800 attack and 1000 defense. If this face-up card would leave the field, banish it instead. You can only use each of the following effects of Fluwandries and Eaglin once per turn, and cannot special summon during the turn you activate either effect. If this card is normal summoned, you can add 1 level 7 or higher winged beast monster from your deck to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon winged beast monster. If a winged beast monster is normal summoned to your field, while this card is banished, you can add this card to your hand. First ability is part of its recursion effect, in that when it's banished, you can then bring it back by other means. As soon as this card has been normal summoned, you can instantly search for a level 7 or higher winged beast monster, and it can be any of those so long as it meets the level condition, from the deck to the hand. Once this happens, you can then normal summon an additional winged beast monster for the duration of the turn. Fluwandries and Street is a water attribute winged beast level 1 with 700 attack and 1100 defense. If this face-up card would leave the field, banish it instead. You can only use each of the following effects of Fluwandries and Street once per turn, and cannot special summon the turn you activate either effect. If this card is normal summoned, you can target 1 card in either graveyard, banish it. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon 1 winged beast monster. If a winged beast monster is normal summoned to your field, while this card is banished, you can add this card to your hand. With this card's normal summon, you can just take a card in either graveyard and then you can banish it. So it's a good way of disrupting your opponent, or if it's one of your Flandres monsters, then they can actually be revived from the banish pile. And then you can instantly normal summon a winged beast monster on that same turn. If this card happens to be banished, it can recover itself back to the hand. Fluwandries and Token is a winged attribute winged beast level 1 with 500 attack and 1300 defense. If this face-up card would leave the field, banish it instead. You can only use each of the following effects of Fluwandries and Token once per turn, and cannot special summon the turn you activate either effect. If this card is normal summoned, you can target 1 of your banished Fluwandries cards, add it to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon 1 winged beast monster. If a winged beast monster is normal summoned to your field, while this card is banished, you can add this card to your hand. The first part of the effect just lets you, as soon as it's normal summoned, take 1 of your banished Flandres cards, and it gets sent back to the hand, so it has a recursion effect. And then from that, you can then normal summon a winged beast monster. When this card is banished, it can recover itself by being added back to your hand. Fluwandries and Empen is a winged attribute winged beast level 10 with 2700 attack and 1000 defense. If this card is tribute summoned, you can add 1 Fluwandries spell trap card from your deck to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon 1 monster. While this tribute summoned monster is on the field, your opponent's special summon monsters in attack position cannot activate their effects. If this card battles an opponent's monster during damage calculation, you can banish 1 card from your hand. That opponent's monster's current attack and defense becomes halved until the end of this turn. This is the second boss monster for the Flandres archetype. It has decent attack points with 2700, and as soon as this card is tribute summoned, you can instantly search for a Flandres spell trap card from the deck to the hand. After this, you can normal summon a additional monster, Provided that this card is tributed onto the field, your opponent's special monsters in attack position are unable to activate their abilities, so it shuts them down. And provided this card battles an opponent's monster during the damage calculation by banishing a card from your hand, all of the opponent's monsters' attack and defense become halved, so it significantly weakens them, and for the most part, unless they are immune to monster effects, will have no ability to get over this card. Fluindries and the Magnificent Map. It's a field spell card, and the effect is, during the main phase, you can reveal one level 1 Fluindries monster in your hand and banish one Fluindries card with a different name from your deck. Then immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon the revealed monster. If your opponent normal summons a monster immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one Fluindries monster. You can only use each effect of Fluindries and the Magnificent Map once per turn. First part of the effect, since it's a field spell, is quite useful by revealing a level 1 Fluindries monster in your hand and banishing a Fluindries card with a different name from the deck. You can instantly normal summon the revealed monster. If the opponent normal summons a monster immediately after the effect resolves, you can then just normal summon a Fluindries monster. So it always provides you with more advantage than your opponent. Fluindries and the Unexplored Winds is a continuous spell card. The effect is you can conduct tribute summons that require 2 tributes by sending one monster you control and one card your opponent controls to the graveyard instead of attributing. It is still treated as a tribute summon. During a main phase, you can reveal up to 2 Winged Beast monsters in your hand and place them on the bottom of the deck in any order. Then draw equal to the number of cards placed. You can only use this effect of Fluindries and the Unexplored Winds once. This card gives you the opportunity when tribute summon to break not only tribute a monster that you have, but the other cost could be anywhere from your opponent's field. It could be a monster, a spell, or a trap card. It's a good way of disrupting your opponent before they can really react to anything. And that means you can bring out either of the 2 level 10 monsters. Each turn, you can just reveal up to 2 Winged Beast monsters in the hand and place them on the bottom of the deck to draw an additional 2 cards. This is a good way of adding to the consistency of your hand by getting rid of monsters you might not need for that time, or were probably useful at the beginning of the duel, but not so as you've drawn into those cards. Fluindries and the Advent of Adventure. It's a quick play spell card with the effect: banish one Winged Beast monster from your hand or face-up field, add one Fluindries monster or Fluindries field spell from your deck to your hand, then gain 500 life points. You can only activate one Fluindries and the Advent of Adventure once per turn. As soon as you just banish a Winged Beast monster from your hand or on the field, you can just search for either a Fluindries monster or the field spell, and that goes straight to your hand. It's a decent searcher for the deck. It also gives you an additional 500 life points. It's a small little bonus. Keep in mind this can only be used once a turn, so you need to understand where it's going to maximize its potential. Fluindries and the Dreaming Town is a normal trap card. The effect is during the main phase, immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon one level 4 or lower Winged Beast monster. If you tribute summon a level 7 or higher monster while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card, change all monsters your opponent controls to face down defense position. You can only use this effect of Fluindries and the Dreaming Town once per turn. The effect immediately allows you to bring out a level 4 or lower Winged Beast monster, and if you happen to tribute summon a level 7 or higher monster, provided this card is in the graveyard, just by banishing this, you can change all monsters your opponent controls to face down defense position, so it does provide an additional form of Book of Moon, and it prevents your opponent from really disrupting whatever you intend to do, as once those cards are face down, even if they have quick effects, aren't going to likely be able to trigger. Fluindries and the Scary Sea is a counter trap card. When your opponent would special summon a monster while you control a face-up tribute summoned monster, and no special summon monsters negate the summon. And if you do, return that monster to the hand. Also, for the rest of this turn, your opponent cannot special summon and can conduct up to 3 normal summon sets this turn, not just 1. You can only activate one Fluindries and the Scary Sea per turn. As soon as the opponent would special summon the monster, provided you have a tribute summon monster and no special summon monsters, you get to immediately negate the summon and return that monster to the hand. But it does allow your opponent to conduct 3 normal summoner sets this turn, not just 1. Even if they don't have tribute monsters, it does provide them with a certain level of advantage. I suppose you'd have to do this, otherwise it'd be too much to give them this as a counter trap, bounce back whatever monster they've had invested into, and not allow them to at least have something on board.